I'm Eric Njoka, and welcome to another episode of World of Africa on WION The World is One. This week, we focus on the relationship that is slowly turning cold for countries in the Sahel or West Africa and the West, and also how artificial intelligence or AI is making inroads into the continent. Thank you for joining us. We begin from the Sahel region. US officials traveled to Niger to express concerns about the country's potential development of ties to Russia and Iran before the ruling junta revoked an accord governing the roughly 1,000 US military personnel there. The Pentagon said it was seeking clarification about the way ahead. Niger said it had revoked with immediate effect its military accord with the US that had allowed Pentagon personnel to operate on its soil. First, it was the French. And now, it is the Americans. What's really going on in Niger? Let's find out in our cover report.
Niamey was slowly acclimatizing to the pushist rule after the junta took control, when the military jolted it with the announcement that the US military presence is no longer justified. The announcement followed high-level talks with US diplomatic and military officials this week.
On the choice of diplomatic, strategic and military partners, the government of Niger regrets the desire of the American delegation to deny the sovereign Nigerian people the right to choose their partners and the types of partnership capable of helping them to truly fight against terrorism. Even though the United States of America has decided unilaterally to suspend all cooperation between our two countries. Also, the government of Niger strongly denounces the condescending attitude accompanied by the threat of reprisals on the part of the head of the American delegation towards the government and the people of Niger.
Dénonce-t-il avec force l'attitude
Niger plays a central role in the US military's operation in Africa's Sahel region. It is also home to a major airbase. The US is concerned about the spread of jihadist violence in the region, where local groups have links to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State extremist groups. In recent years, the US military began operating a major airbase in the Niger city of Agadez, some 920 kilometers from Niamey, using it for manned and unmanned surveillance flights and other operations. The US has also invested hundreds of millions of dollars in training Niger's military. Some of those forces were involved in the July overthrow of Niger's democratically elected president, Mohamed Bazoum.
On the cooperation between the two countries, in particular military cooperation and the fight against terrorists, the US presence on the territory of the Republic of Niger is illegal and violates all the constitutional and democratic rules which would require the sovereign people, in particular through its elected representatives, to be consulted on the installation of a foreign army on its territory.
Last October, Washington officially designated the military takeover as a coup. It triggered US laws restricting the military support and aid that it can provide to Niger. But in December, the top US envoy for Africa, Molly Fee, said the US was willing to restore aid if Niger met certain conditions.
As for the Russian Federation, it is a partner with which Niger deals on a state-to-state basis, in accordance with the military cooperation agreements signed with the previous government to acquire military equipment necessary to its fight against the terrorists who have claimed thousands of innocent Nigerian victims under the indifferent eye of much of the international community.
Sous l'œil indifférent d'une bonne partie de la communauté internationale.
The Niger junta spokesman said the US tone was condescending and threatened Niger's sovereignty. Since the July coup, the country has ended its security partnership with the European Union, and France has withdrawn its troops. According to a White House report to Congress, the US military had some 650 personnel working in Niger in December. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
We are still talking about West Africa. A day after his release from jail, Senegal opposition leader Bassirou Diomaye Faye drew hundreds of supporters at his first public appearance as a presidential contender for the Friday, March 24th elections, promising to tackle corruption. Next to him, the popular firebrand opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, the man right here, urged supporters to vote for his ally, him. International investors will be closely monitoring the presidential election in Senegal after delays incited widespread protests. The country, usually one of coup-prone West Africa's most stable democracies, has been gripped by tensions since early February when President Macky Sall tried to postpone the vote that had been due to take place on February 25th by 10 months, leading to warnings of democratic backsliding. Here's a report.
Their joy is evident. These are the supporters of Senegal's opposition leaders Ousmane Sonko and Bassirou Diomaye Faye celebrating their release from prison.
It's like he come from Mecca. All the country should be out to welcome him. This is disgusting from a government. You jailed someone and he's a celebrity when he's out. This is a victory. We love Sonko.
Ousmane and Faye's release has been expected after the parliament passed an amnesty law on March 6th that sought to ease tensions after a foiled bid to postpone the vote by 10 months. The release pitchforked the pair to frontrunner status days ahead of the delayed national election. Sonko, the key challenger to President Macky Sall's ruling party, threw his support behind Faye after his disqualification over a defamation conviction last July. Backing for the opposition has gained momentum, even as support for Sall and his allies dropped during his second term in office. Sall's failed bid last month to postpone the election by 10 months has worsened the situation for him. Most of Sonko's supporters are expected to vote for Faye, making him a serious threat to the other 18 presidential hopefuls.
There will be no war because these elections will not be a battle. The real challenge will be to see how to manage this country after the elections. These are the two things we are left. We are at this stage something we will seek revenge. There will be no revenge. There will be justice.
Others in the race are Khalifa Sall, the mayor of Senegal's coastal capital Dakar from 2009 to 2018. Unrelated to the president Macky Sall, 68-year-old Khalifa Sall is campaigning to succeed the incumbent president, the man many credit with orchestrating his detention. Sall was arrested in March 2017 on suspicion of embezzling about $3 million in public funds. Anta Babakar is the only female contender in Senegal's upcoming presidential election. 39-year-old Babakar launched the Alternative for the Next Generation of Citizens ARC political movement in August 2023. She is the daughter of the founding president of Sedima, a leading poultry production group in West and Central Africa region. Until recently, she was the executive director of the company that also operates Senegal's Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises. Babakar says her platform advocates leadership based on competence, experience and vision rather than gender in a bid to overcome traditional barriers in Senegalese politics. And finally, Amadou Ba. Sall picked Ba as the ruling Benno Bokk Yakaar BBY coalition's candidate after a party-wide consultation process. A former economy and foreign minister, 62-year-old Ba was named Prime Minister in September 2022, having ran the taxation directorate before his political career. For the first time in the West African nation's history, the incumbent is not on the ballot. The campaign season has been shortened to a brisk 2 weeks after Sall's failed attempt to postpone the polls to December. Bureau Report, WION The World is One.
A Zimbabwean sect leader and self-styled prophet appeared in court charged with child abuse after police raided his farm and rescued more than 200 children doing physical labor. A police statement says the children were subjected to abuse as cheap labor doing manual work in the name of being taught life skills. Police found 251 children on the farm who were not attending school, most of whom did not have birth certificates. They also found 16 graves, including 7 for infants, all of which were unregistered. Here's a report from Harare.
A sect leader and self-styled prophet appeared in a Zimbabwe court on Thursday, charged with child abuse after police raided his farm and rescued 251 children. Police said the children, quote, were subjected to abuse as cheap labor, doing manual work in the name of being taught life skills. Police found the children on the farm were not attending school, and most did not have birth certificates. They also found 16 graves, including 7 for infants, all of which were unregistered, police said. 56-year-old Ishmael Chogoronge was arrested this week, along with 7 of his church members following a raid on their farm about 18 miles west of the capital, Harare.
This field is part of our projects here, helping us to feed our members. No one is starving or lacking anything. We are a peaceful congregation. We are not a threat to anyone.
State media outlet H Metro said that Chogoronge and his accomplices had been remanded in custody for a bail ruling and are facing 2 counts of violating the Burial and Cremation Act and the Children's Act. No pleas were taken. One of the church leaders told H Metro they do not seek out medical treatment. If anyone here falls ill, we leave their healing to God because He has His own ways and means to heal the sick, he said. Video from the raid showed dozens of women and children dressed in white sitting under a tree and singing. Some were later taken away in buses, escorted by police.
We do not go to the hospital for medical treatment. If anyone here falls ill, we leave their healing to God, because He has His own ways and means to heal the sick. Our children do not attend formal education, because what they teach is contrary to God's orders. If we send our children to school, it will not rain. That's why, you see, the rest of the country has had no rains. But here we have plenty. If we send our children to formal education, we will have brought drought to this place.
Zimbabwe is a majority Christian country where apostolic sects are common. Chogoronge was identified by police as a leader in the so-called White Garment Church. Its followers have previously been accused of abuse of women and children and are known for practicing child marriages.
Hunters in Niger are lamenting loss of range to Islamist threat. Niger's security situation has worsened in recent months with an increase of attacks by Islamist groups since a military junta ousted its president last July. The hunters' plight is just one of myriad ways the long-running conflict has hurt the region's communities. Here's a report.
On foot or motorbike, racing after their dogs in the hope of chasing down a hare or two to fill their empty sacks. The hunters spread out across dry scrubland near Niger's capital. Apart from the recent addition of motorbikes, the hunters' methods have changed little over generations. Armed with slingshots and long-angled sticks, they comb the undergrowth to scare out the game, or they let their greyhound-like dogs spot and chase down prey from afar. Hunting for small wild game is a traditional pursuit across the vast sandy steppes of West Africa's Sahel region. But rising violence linked to a decade-old fight with Islamist insurgents is posing new challenges for hunters. His dogs, but these days he and other hunters often leave the bush empty-handed. Increase in hunting has reduced the number of ground squirrels, hares, bustards, guinea fowl and other once common local game animals.
Hunting isn't what it used to be. It used to be that you didn't have to go very far for it to be good. But nowadays, you have to travel miles and miles.
According to crisis monitoring group ACLED, Niger has seen an increase in attacks by Islamist groups since the military ousted its president last July. The hunters' plight is just one of the many ways the conflict is hurting communities across the central Sahel region. That includes Mali and Burkina Faso. The violence has contributed to a humanitarian crisis with over 3 million people displaced.
And allows anyone, even in locations with no internet, to access AI technology. WION uses a traditional handset to tap into local mobile phone networks to send commands or even requests for information through SMS or voice calls. Here's a report.
Visually impaired Nigerian resident Kehil Olto Bosin is a geography and animal enthusiast who used to struggle to find information about the topics he loves because he does not have a smartphone. But that is changing thanks to an artificial intelligence-powered mobile phone service that works offline.
For people who are not that financially buoyant, they still have this opportunity to use even the little as 10 naira to ask a lot of questions that will actually benefit them. I'm so happy.
The service, launched by Canada-based WION in Nigeria last month, allows anyone, even in remote locations with no internet service, to access AI technology. WION allows a traditional handset to tap into local mobile phone networks to send commands or requests for information through SMS or voice calls. It works like other AI chatbots and can be used by illiterate people since it can be prompted by voice.
Hello and welcome to the WION platform.
It is also much cheaper to use as it saves users data costs. In a country like Nigeria, illiteracy and poverty is rife. Gloria Kabu is the regional platform manager for WION in Nigeria.
We understand that these people are disconnected because they are currently offline, do not have a mobile phone to access information, and also they do not have a smartphone that they can use to access information on the internet. Most of them, even when they have a smartphone, they are not able to purchase data that it can use to get connected to the internet.
25-year-old David Diva works as a carpenter. Until recently, he could only access information by calling in on radio programs. That has changed since he started using the AI service. In 2020, Diva's eyesight deteriorated, which he said was caused by chiseling wood without proper protective eyewear. He now wants to change careers and he is using AI to hone his ideas.
I can leave this handwork where I'm doing, maybe now cause the eyes problem for me. Sometimes I'm feeling to leave it and go and start business. I can ask them questions about the business. They can give me the answer to start a business in Nigeria, how the business can be big for me.
Alto Busin no longer needs to ask people to use their smartphones to help search the web for him. He can access information he needs when he wants to. The UNICEF has partnered with WION to provide information on HIV, tropical diseases, nutrition, water, sanitation and hygiene. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And finally, a Tunisian woman has transformed her house in Tunisia into an animal shelter with hundreds of cats and dogs. Every day, she tends to injured cats and dogs. For the past 10 years, Hauda Bouchada has run a refuge within her home in Tunisia, housing 400 cats and 20 dogs. Here's her story.
Hauda Bouchada is constantly surrounded by animals. The 42-year-old spends her days in a rented house turned shelter, brimming with injured cats and dogs. Bouchada says she started rescuing animals over a decade ago and has now dedicated her life to the care of over 400 cats and 22 dogs.
This is a relationship of love, friendship, a mother's bond with her children and the children's bond with their mother.
They know I am their mother and they cannot bear to see me in pain.
Despite not having a job or a steady income, Bachuda says she dedicates all her resources for her pets. She gets some support from associations, individuals, and the owners of the house that turned into a shelter.
No matter what I do for them, I still feel that I am not doing enough. I always ask them for forgiveness. I always tell them, forgive me. I am not lying to you. I can no longer take care of them alone. Maybe if money was available, then yes, I could. But I am tired doing this by myself.
A new study from South Korea says spending quality time with dogs reduces stress and increases relaxation and concentration. So hug your dog for your own good health as well as your pets. And Huda does just that with all her dogs and cats.
My goal in life is to save all the cats in Tunisia, particularly those on the street that deserve care. However, I won't bring in every cat I encounter on the street. Only those deserving of it, those with disabilities, sickness, accidents, or requiring medication.
Bachuda gets a lot of criticism from family members and even strangers online for her endeavor, but she says she will never give up on the animals. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of World of Africa. I'm Eric Njoka. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms and tell us what you think about the show there. And until next time, it's goodbye from me.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.